Hello, hello, and welcome to Myths in the Meadow. I'm Marcus Pibworth, and welcome to Rock Meadow, this beautiful meadow at the edge of England, right in the west of Herefordshire. There, the Black Mountains, that side behind me, the ancient forest, and all around you can hear the friendly hellos of the sheep. So here I want to tell, I wanted to create a series of stories I'm going to tell from the meadow. I'm going to tell you some of my favourite stories and I hope that you enjoy them. Now this one I've got for you is a really good one. It's one of my favourites. I found it a couple of years ago when I was searching for bear stories. I was doing this mentorship with a wonderful storyteller, Jan Blake. And I just think it's a fabulous story. So I hope you enjoy it. It starts off with a farmer and he has 3 sons. Now the 2 elder sons, they absolutely love the farming way of life. They love getting up in the morning and milking the cows. They love going and feeding the chickens. They love to plough the fields. They love to sow the seeds. When harvest time comes, they're the first there. They love it. They love to get up early in the mornings and scythe the wet grass. They just love this. This is their way of life. But the youngest son, for him it's not like that. I mean, he gets up, he goes through the motions, he drags himself out of bed to milk the cows. He's often the last there. Sometimes he gets up to scythe the grass. It's usually too dry by the time he gets there, but he does it. He does all the things that he has to do, but his heart is definitely not in it. He wants to be far away from this place. He wants to explore distant lands. He can't wait to escape. Now, just as he comes of age, he gets his opportunity because a war breaks out far away from there. As soon as he can, he goes and he signs up, he joins the army, and in no time at all, his dream is coming true. He is in a faraway land. He's doing something exciting. They give him a uniform, they give him a rifle. And whenever the bullets are flying, he's there at the front line with his rifle on his shoulder. This is the life for him. He loves it. He begins to rise through the ranks. Life is going well. And then something terrible happens. Peace is called throughout the land. He found himself discharged from the army. And there he was with just his pack and his old rifle. He didn't know where to go. Everything had been taken from him. The first thing he did was go back to that farm, back to his brothers who had now inherited it. When he got there, they welcomed him with open arms. They hadn't seen him for ages. In the evening, they prepared a meal for him in the farmhouse. They shared stories while they broke bread together. But at the end of the meal, the brothers, they looked to him and they said, "Brother, why are you here? This is not your life. There's nothing for you here. Times are hard. We cannot support you. You're not trained for this. You're trained to fight. You're trained to kill. You must look for work elsewhere." Now the brother, he knew deep in his heart that this was true. He didn't hold it against his brothers. He slept there the night. In the morning, his brothers gave him a small package of food. He took up his pack and his rifle and off he went looking for work. He went everywhere, from village to town, town to village. He asked at blacksmiths, at cobblers, he asked shepherds, he asked anyone he could if he could have work, but the response was always the same: time is hard. Times are hard, there's no work for you here. And you are only trained to fight and to kill. You need to look elsewhere. And so he continued to walk, and he walked for days, and those days turned into weeks, and those weeks turned into months, and he could feel the pangs of hunger growing and growing and growing. And he could feel the despair rising and rising and rising until it got to the point where he was crippled by despair. He found a clearing in the woods one day and he sat down on a log and he stared at his feet. He just thought to himself, what am I going to do? I can see no future. I cannot see how this can get any better. Just at that moment, there was a cough. He looked up, and there, leaning nonchalantly against an oak tree, was a gentleman, a strange-looking gentleman, but a gentleman indeed. He had a very coiffured goatee beard. He had long black horns pointing up to the sky. He had a beautiful emerald green jacket on that stretched way down below his knees, but poking out from the bottom of that jacket was a pair of very hairy legs. And where his feet should have been were hooves. I know what you want. Look at you there, poor and starving. Oh, I can help you. But first I need to know something. Are you brave? And the soldier, he thought to himself, brave? He said, of course I am brave. I am a soldier. Well, look behind you then. Now the soldier, he turned behind him, and there, coming straight at him, was a great black bear with its jaws open, dripping with saliva. A muscle memory kicked in. He shouldered his rifle and he let off one shot. And that bullet went straight between the bear's eyes and it dropped down dead at his feet. Ah, you are brave and quick. I can help you. Now at this, the devil, he took off his green jacket and he went and he placed it on the soldier. He said, put your hands in the pockets. The soldier put his hands in the pockets. It was full of gold. Gold, yeah, put your hands in your pockets and you'll have as much gold as you need and more. And all you need to do is wear that jacket for 7 years. And if you survive those 7 years, then I'll make sure you're rich for the rest of your days. But if you do not, then your soul will be mine for eternity. And all I have to do is wear this jacket for 7 years and stay alive. And that you do. Oh, there is one more thing. During those 7 years, you must not cut your hair, you must not trim your beard, you must not wash your face or trim your nostril hairs, you must not blow your nose or clean behind your ears, you must not wash under your armpits, you must not trim your fingernails or cut your toenails, you must not wipe your arse, you must not clean yourself in any way. But apart from that, oh, and there is one more thing. Now at this point the devil rolled up his sleeves and he bent over the carcass of the bear. He pulled out one sharp claw. He made an incision all the way down the bear. And right there before the soldier, he flayed the skin off and he held it up. And you must wear this. Every day for 7 years you must not take it off. You can use it as a bed. And from now on, you will be known simply as Bearskin. And at this, the devil placed that heavy, rancid bearskin over the shoulders of the soldier. He placed the head of the bear on top of the head of the man. Now the soldier, he still had the gold in his hands. He looked down and he thought, moments ago I was in complete despair. I had no hope, but now, thought to himself, how bad could it be? He said, I accept. Ah, said the devil, I knew you would. He said, right, well, meet me back here in 7 years if you're still alive. And if you are, hell, I'll even clean you myself. And at that, the devil strode off. The man watched as the devil disappeared into a cloud of mist. And there he was alone, bearskin. He put the gold back in his pockets and off he set. Now, truth be told, those first week or so was absolutely fantastic. It was wonderful. He had never had any money before really in his entire life, and suddenly he had more gold than he knew what to do with. He went straight to the town and he went to restaurants and he ordered the finest foods. He ordered the finest bottles of wine from the cellars, the oldest vintage. He stayed in fine hotels. And wherever he went, people flocked to him. It's strange what happens when you have hands full of gold. He always had an entourage around him. But you know what it's like when you don't brush your teeth for even one night Wake up in the morning with that musty taste in your mouth. If you go to a festival and you haven't showered for a few days, how nasty it begins to feel. Well, very soon this started happening to him. Soon the dirt was getting under his fingernails. He hadn't blown his nose. Stubble was coming through and it was, his food stuck in it. And people were starting to notice the smell. But still, all he had to do was dig his hands a bit deeper into his pockets and the people stayed around. He found places to stay, places to eat. Now, by the end of the first year, he was definitely starting to stink badly. People were starting to keep a wide berth from him. He was finding his having to put his hands deeper into his pockets. When the second year, he was so dirty that if you'd sprinkled cress onto his face, it would have sprouted. His beard was getting long and matting into his hair. That bearskin was beginning to stink worse than it ever had before. And by the time he got into the third years, his name went before him wherever he went. Everyone knew of Bearskin, the legend of Bearskin. When he went into towns, if they hadn't fled already, he'd see people running. Children would hide behind their parents. "Mum, it's Bearskin, keep me away from him." He would see curtains twitching. By the time it got to the end of the fourth year, he was finding it harder and harder to go into those places. He was finding it harder and harder to find anywhere to stay. The stench was like a force field around him. By the end of the fourth year, the last night, he had to find somewhere to stay that night. So he did what he always did. He waited till it was dark. And quietly he crept through the streets. By now his boots had worn away and his toenails were long and curled and scratching along the ground as he walked. He was chafing everywhere he could chafe. And he got up to an inn. With his great clawed hand, he bang, bang, banged on the door. Now, as soon as the innkeeper opened the door, Bearskin slid his foot in before it could be slammed in his face. Now, the innkeeper knew of Bearskin. He'd heard the legends. "No, you were Bearskin and there was no place for you here, you monster." Now, Bearskin knew the deal, though. He knew what to do. He put his hands in his pockets. He brought out this gold and he opened his hands up before the innkeeper. And as soon as he did, the innkeeper's eyes grew big and bright. Quickly he grabbed the gold out of Bearskin's hands. He scooped it into his shirt. He said, "Maybe there is somewhere." He said, "Well, you can't stay in the rooms because I'd never get rid of the stench. I'd have to burn the sheets. You can't stay in the stables because you'd scare the animals. But at the back of the yard there is an outhouse. Stay in there. But make sure you're gone by the morning and nobody sees you. I do not want you tarnishing the name of my good establishment." With that, he pushed Bearskin back. He shut the door and Bearskin could hear as the innkeeper walked away from the door, the gold clinking in his shirt. And so again, Bearskin turned and dragged his claws across the ground. Feeling the weight of the day, the pangs of hunger in his stomach, he walked across the yard until he got to the outhouse. It was an old rickety shack. It had wooden roof with holes in it. And he did what he did every night. He put down his bearskin and he tried to sleep. Now, tried to sleep is the right word because while he was laying there, he could feel everything living on him. He could feel ticks and fleas crawling all over his body, everywhere they could. He itched and he scratched. His whole body crept and his whole body crawled. And that is how he tried to pass the night. Till it got to about midnight. And all of a sudden he heard coming from one of the rooms nearby a crashing, someone throwing stuff across the room, screaming, shouting, and so soon the screaming and the shouting, it changed and it turned into sobbing, heaving sobs, the sobs of a man. Now Bearskin didn't like to hear the sobs of this man. He thought, perhaps I can help. So he heaved himself up off the ground. He put that bearskin back over his head. And slowly he made his way across the yard until he got to the door of the room that looked out. And quietly as he could, he banged on the door. When the sobbing stopped, he could hear the sounds of someone shuffling across the room. The door opened a crack again. Bearskin slipped his foot in to stop it being shut in his face. The man took a step back as soon as he saw Bearskin. He had heard the legends too. I heard you crying. Perhaps I can help. Help? How can you help? Now he'd heard of Bearskin. He'd always heard he's a monster. But there, when he was standing, he looked in. He saw, yeah, sure, he looked strange. He looked weird. He looked pretty disgusting. But when the man looked into his eyes, he didn't see a monster, but he saw a man. How can you help? Well, what have I got to lose? Fine. He said, I was once a rich merchant. I had a fine townhouse. I looked after my 3 daughters well, but my fortunes have changed. Everything has gone wrong. My house is falling to ruins. I can't support my daughters. I can't even pay for this room tonight. I'm going to have to leave at the crack of dawn before the innkeeper rises, otherwise I'm going to be thrown into jail again. I'm lost and I do not know what to do. It's just money you need. Then I can help you. Now Bearskin, he put his hands in his pockets again and he pulled out a small bag of gold and he placed it in the merchant's hand. The merchant, he looked inside. He said, what is this? Gold. This is too much. I cannot accept it. He tried to pass it back. Take it, said Bearskin. Again, the man began to weep. He said, you've been so kind to me. This has changed everything. This will change my fortunes. I will be sensible with this money. I'll put my daughters first. Everything will be fine. Please, how can I thank you? Do you need a place to stay? Come back with me. Bearskin nodded. Are you single? You look like you might be single. I've got 3 daughters. Come back with me. Now it was beginning to get light. Darkness was coming to an end, and he said quick, he left one of the gold coins. The merchant left one of the gold coins, and together they set off out of the inn, out of the town. And they walked slowly through the hills, through the valleys, through the forests, through the woods, until finally they got to another town. And when they got into the town, there before him was a house that obviously once been a fine house, but now, yeah, it was looking dilapidated. Its stonework was falling apart. The paint was peeling off the door. Windows were broken. There were holes in the roof. And the merchant went up to the door. He opened it. Come inside. And Bearskin found himself standing inside at the merchant's house. Now there were 3 doors. Let me call my daughters. The merchant went to the first door. He opened it up. He said, come out. Now the eldest daughter, she came out. She looked at Bearskin. He said, look, this man, said the merchant, he has changed our fortunes. He has given us gold. Everything is going to be all right. And he's kind. He would make a great husband. Absolutely not, said the eldest daughter. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe you're even suggesting that. Look at him. Look at the state of that. He's disgusting. He's a monster, a beast. I will not marry that. I would sooner the devil took me. And now, deep below in the ground, down in hell, the devil's ears pricked up. He reached down up off his shelf. He got his great ledger out. He opened it on his desk. He pulled out his quill. He dipped it in his pot of blood. And he wrote the name of the first daughter in there with a big smile on his face. Now back in the house, with all the commotion, the second door opened. And the middle daughter came out. Again, the merchant said, look at this man. He's given us gold. He's changed our fortunes. He would make a good husband. Absolutely not, she said. Look at him. He's vile. I've seen shaved bears dancing at the circus that were more attractive than him. I would sooner the devil took me than marry that. And the devil had just been about to close that ledger, but his smile came back. He grabbed hold of his quill, dipped it in the blood and wrote her name down too. Now back at the house, the third door opens. Now this, the innkeeper took a sigh. It was his beautiful youngest daughter. Now he shouldn't have favourites, but she was the one he went to. She was the one that listened to him. But this man had been kind, so he said to her, look, this man here, he's been kind, he's changed our fortunes, he's looking for a wife. Now, the youngest daughter, she didn't scream, she didn't run away. Instead, she walked up to Bearskin and she stood in front of him. She looked him straight in the eyes. And first she reached out one hand and she touched him on the cheek. Now, he recoiled, but he hadn't been touched for so long. And she put her other hand on his face. She looked him directly in his eyes. And she said, I can see that you're a kind man. You've helped our family when you didn't need to. And look, it's just a bit of hair and dirt. We can soon change that. I'll accept. I will marry him. Now, if she could have seen under the snot and the matted hair and the dirt and the grime, she would have seen a smile spread across his lips. That he reached onto his finger and he pulled off his ring, twirled it over his fingernails. And he looked at her and he said, I cannot stay here now. I have something I need to do. I need to roam for 3 more years. But then I will be back. And that he broke the ring in two. And he gave one piece to her. He said, if I am not back in 3 years, I will be dead. And she took it and she put it in her breast pocket. And she said, I'll wait for you. And with that, Bearskin turned and he walked out of the house. Now those 3 years were the hardest 3 years of all. He was so monstrous looking that he could not go into the towns anymore. They would chase him out with pitchforks and torches. So he had to spend all his time in the woods. He survived off berries and stabbing beetles with his claws. Sometimes he'd catch a squirrel, but with those claws he had no means really of making fire, so he'd eat them raw. But most nights he went to bed hungry. He slept under trees. Some nights it was so cold he thought he would not wake up. His bones were beginning to stick through his skin. Almost every night he went to sleep and he thought, this is it. I will not wake in the morning. I cannot wake in the morning. It is too much. But still the days went past. Until one day he woke up and he felt lighter. He was still dirty. He was still had long nails and a matted beard, but it was on that day he realised he'd done it. 7 years had passed. And he got up and he made his way towards that clearing. Now he was still frail, he was still dirty, but there was certainly a spring in his step. When he got to the clearing, the devil was already there. And as soon as he saw Bearskin come through, his face fell. Bearskin walked up to him. He dropped the bearskin down on the ground. He took off the green, quite smelly, disgusting green emerald jacket and held it back. Yours, I believe. The devil snatched it. I'll have that. Right. I'm off. Wait 1 moment, said the soldier. I've survived these 7 years. I've done my part of the deal. There's still one thing left for you to do. Clean me. And that had been part of the bargain, so the devil had to do it. And so for the next week, the next month, the next 3 months, he sent scraping and scrubbing and cutting and scratching dirt off until finally, before him was not the rancid creature that had crawled through those 7 years, but a nice looking, clean, fragrant smelling young man. Now he still had lines under his eyes. He still had you don't go through 7 years of that and come out completely unscathed, but there he was, and he was feeling stronger than he ever had before. And when he put his hands in his pockets, sure enough, even without the emerald coat, he was still rich. He could still have as much gold as he liked. He watched as the devil huffed and stormed away, muttering under his breath. But the soldier now had somewhere he needed to be. So he turned and he went straight towards the local town. There he used his gold to buy some fine clothes, so he looked really sharp. He got himself a great carriage pulled by beautiful white horses. And he got driven to that town where the merchant lived. Now, when he got there, the merchant's house had been done up. It looked fabulous. The stonework had all been pointed up, the door repainted, windows all mended. There were no holes in the roof. It looked glorious. And the soldier went up and he knocked on the door. Now, when the merchant opened it, he didn't recognise this man. He thought, this is a fine-looking general. Why is he here? And he said to him, "Why are you here?" He said, "Well, I've come to find my wife." "Come to find your wife? You've come to the right place then. I have 3 daughters. I'm sure one of them will suit someone of your status." And he welcomed him in. Now he plonked him down on the sofa, and the 2 older sisters sat beside him. And the younger sister, she was there, but she was sitting in the corner dressed in black, staring at the ground. And the merchant said, "This man, he's come looking for a wife." "A wife?" said the 2 eldest daughters. They jumped up and they ran into their rooms to go and doll themselves up, put on their best dresses. The merchant said, "I must go and get champagne. This will be a celebration." He turned and left and went into the kitchen. So it was just the soldier and the youngest daughter. He made his way over to her. There was a table with a bottle of wine on it, some wine glasses. He went over to that and he took the cork out of the wine. He poured some of it into one of the wine glasses. Then he took out from his pocket his half of the gold ring and he dropped it inside. And he said, "Please accept this drink from me." And she reached out. She mumbled a thank you. She didn't look up. She sat there. Slowly she drank it. Then she saw in it something glinting. She reached in. She pulled out half of the ring. She reached into her breast pocket. She pulled out the other half. She held it up, and in really one of those real Hollywood moments, she looked through. And she said, "Can it really be you?" He said, "It's me. It's me. I'm back. I've come back for you." She said, You said 3 more years. 3 more years passed. I've been waiting months. I thought you were dead." "I am here, my darling." And he placed the ring on her finger and he embraced her. And just at that moment, the 2 eldest sisters, they came back out. And they saw their younger sister embracing this fine-looking man. And they said, "No, what is this? He was meant for us. He was meant for us. This cannot be." And they ran out of there swearing and muttering. They burst out the front door. Oh, they were angry, and if they had looked up, if they hadn't been so consumed with themselves, they would have seen, not far from the house, leaning quite nonchalantly up against an oak tree, a gentleman with a coiffured goatee beard, with long black horns pointing up to the sky, with an emerald green jacket that stretched down below his knees, hairy legs, and in the place of feet, hooves, with a great big smile on his face. Back in the house, those 2 lovers had everything they needed. They were back in each other's arms. And not long after, they celebrated a wedding. And as they say in these stories, they lived happily ever after. Thank you very much. That was my retelling of Bearskin. And I'll put down in the notes some links to different versions of that story if you'd like to read them. They're good. But thank you for joining me for this Myths in the Meadow. And I will see you soon. Ciao.